All right, stand by. Roll sound.
Speed.
Roll camera.
Speeding.
Slate.
Scene 1, take 1. Mark.
And action. Hey everybody, welcome. Burnie's Applebox, and we've got a great show for you today. Richard Ragon.
Oh, thank you very much.
Ragon, excuse me.
Like the president.
Yes, Richard Ragon. There he is. Audio sound man in Orange County, California.
Yes.
That is
Production
great.
sound mixer.
And we've known each other for, I don't know, 5 years or so. I think we worked the
longer.
show down. It might have been. You know, isn't that something in our industry? And I tell you, we have no gauge of time, I think, because a lot of things happen right in a row.
Yes.
You know, and it's only the ones that stand out that you sort of have a time marker for. Yeah. And I know that for myself. Some people will ask me, when did we do that? I go, oh, I think it was 3 months ago. They go, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
I have to look at my invoices sometimes.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And pull out the old call sheet, take a look at it, and realize, holy smokes, that was 5 years ago. Because, like you said, there's no gauge for it, or certain.
We don't have a regular
happen.
timeline.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got promoted, you know, at
That's
that
correct.
time.
I was a supervisor at that time. So
or I worked in Section B when I
exactly
that year. You know, it's really funny, and you know, you talk about too, and kind of just starting off here, but you know, one thing you just mentioned it. I want to mention it right now, why it's still in my mind. That call sheet, in my mind. Yeah. That is that's one of the most valuable things you get on every shoot. You know, think of those connections you get there, because how many times have I pulled out a call sheet and I save them all, you know what I mean, that I've come back with and gone, that was the name. Oh, good, got her phone number too.
Absolutely.
You know?
Best way to validate people or vent them is basically working with somebody.
Oh.
Because then you see their work ethic. Are they hustling all the time? Are they moving around? Are they on their phone all day long and you can't find them?
Right, right. All those things.
So people can pull a good game. They can always say, yeah, I've done this and I've worked with this. But when you work with somebody, that's how you really find and vent people.
That is really the true
So it's easy to go back to that call sheet. And kind of highlight that name, put it in your file system,
and then you know you have a good referral for someone.
So if I was a director, that absolutely I would do that. I would start venting all kinds of people doing that. But
absolutely,
I consider sound mixer kind of with a lot of us below the line. We're kind of like work for hires. So in a way, there's other people that get paid more money to sort of take the larger work,
piece
I
of
would
that
say,
work. You know, and that is you know, too, something I want to delve into you a little bit with. But before we sort of go there, I think one of the things that I think is true about us, and once you've been in this business for a long time, usually you're working with very competent people.
Yes.
Almost every time.
Fortunately, yeah.
Because as it goes, and those productions that are hiring you now are much more mature productions. Yes. They're not just starting off, or maybe you know, everybody's got a tight budget these days.
I don't ever want to be the lowest senior guy, or I mean the most senior guy on a set. I always want to be the lowest, because there's so much more to learn by people that have been there a lot longer than I have.
Isn't, you know, Richard, that is so great to hear you say that.
I love it. Every time you go on set, it's an opportunity to learn more, even in fields that you're not even in. I could watch lighting and I'm just amazed at what they do and what they go through just to make the shadows and manipulate something. I don't see it, but somebody over there is saying, he's too hot on this side over here, and I'm looking at him thinking, I don't think I could ever do that, because I just don't see it.
Yeah.
But it is amazing to watch when you see competent people do that job, and they just, you know, and then especially on shows that are faster turnaround times, TV shows and things like that. These guys are hustling at a level that I just, I'm thinking
guys
to myself,
are thinking, when they're setting that scene up, they're thinking, how do we transfer this to the next one, or how much gear do I have to...
There's even a breakdown crew and a setup crew for the next shot.
Because you have to keep the camera moving. That's the way I view it as a lighting guy.
Absolutely.
You know?
Time is money.
Time is money. Time is money. And you know that too. And let's maybe look at some of the cliches, because let me give you just a little history. When I got into the business, and I was later in the business, it was something that when I went on set, I kind of not immediately, but after the first few jobs, I got, it seems like the sound man's always getting shit from somebody,
Yeah,
like
it's a
like
common-
he's always there. There's always a comment or waiting on sound.
Yeah, waiting.
It's like, but let me tell you, and it's. I want to delve into this a little bit because it's fundamentally different than sort of the reason I got into the business. One of the reasons I got into the business was because I got kind of, drafted by the lighting department when I was in a PA, and they put me in that, and I really liked the idea of the camaraderie of my crew
Absolutely.
and my team
Absolutely.
on set. But the sound man, so many times, is just one single individual.
Yeah.
And
It's a shame.
it's right there. Now, it is a shame, and you should have an A2, I think, in a lot of situations, but it doesn't happen a lot with given budgets and stuff.
Budget's the first place you want to cut is the sound department.
And the first thing they do is they
Very
go to
bad
the
idea,
DP. Goes, hey, can you just plug in there and will you just ride audio? It's a horrible idea. But the one thing that the sound man has done on almost every set I have is they're, just as you said, observers.
Yes.
They're watching the lighting. They're watching this, and just like yourself. You've been on set for many years. You've got a pretty good idea how the flow is going.
Yeah.
You know what should
The energy
be happening.
of what's going on. Are we burning
Right.
daylight? Are we doing the best we can?
Right.
Yeah, I can usually tell, like, just by the vibe if we're getting close.
Yes.
Don't have to ask anybody. After a while, everybody kind of fits together like a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
And after a while, I can tell, like, I think we're going to start rolling, so I better start hanging around by my sound cart. Don't go over to Crafty. Don't pick up the tone.
I
Just
feel
start concentrating on what, so that I'm and not the. You don't want to be the holdup on set.
Oh, never.
So it's always a constant. Do everything you can to get up to that point of just wait and then just be ready.
Yeah.
So, all
just
the time.
be ready. Yeah.
But I want to get back to your comment on the one guy for the sound department. That's a terrible injustice because I think that what happens is a lot of producers are always trying to cut the corners. That's kind of their job,
Of
to
course.
cut those corners. And they paid so much money for the location, so much money for the actors. It kind of rolls down the hill, and suddenly they think, well, we have to start taking money from different departments. And unfortunately, they look at the sound department and think that there's a 3-man crew on the sound department, and they think, well, we can do it by one guy because I've seen it done before. But that is a terrible way to look at things, because what
Yes.
will ultimately happen is when one person is doing all these 3 jobs, he's going to fail.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you might not know, because when failure happens in lighting or any other industry, you see it right there.
Right.
In sound, you find out that the failures were later, when it's way too late and we're offset and everybody went home and
Well,
actors.
that
So that's
is the key right there. That is the key. And here, Richard, is something that I tell this to people. I don't know if anybody actually believes me. Certainly, any sound guy believe me. I have had arguments with producers about having the camera guy do audio, and here
Ooh.
I am, a lighting guy.
Ooh,
Here
yeah,
I am,
I've
a
seen
lighting guy. But
more,
my point,
more budget pushes.
my point is this: I can make that interview look slamming. I can make it look gorgeous, even with simple, like not very expensive stuff. You know what I mean? I can give you a dramatic look.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no audio, you have nothing. You have nothing. I could take that audio and put it over B-roll and still make
Yeah.
something out of it. I think a lot of producers, I think a lot of people don't give audio its due, and I think it's one of the most crucial elements of anything we're doing.
Yeah, you can't stress that enough. The sound guys will always say this, but sound is 51% of your overall product.
Right.
But less than 10% of the actual money or the budget goes into that. So there's a disparage between that and all the time. But it's sort of, I don't think a lot of producers or new producers understand how critical that is, and it always comes back to sort of bite them
Yeah.
later on. But that
Sooner
is-
or later, you learn why you hire a sound man. Sound person, I should say.
I've come to the conclusion that I just have to fight for my sound.
Yeah.
I'll fight for the shot to a point, and then I kind of just have to back off, and because there are a lot of new producers, a lot of new directors, and they have to sort of experience that. You can't really tell them this is what's going to happen,
Yeah.
because sometimes people just don't want to take your expertise about this, and they'll just have to fail for themselves. But
Yeah.
fail's not necessarily the end all of end all. A lot of people that do take these failures and then say, oh, the next shoot we're going to do this, and
Yeah.
it's totally different.
Yeah.
I had a film set where I came on one day, and it was easy interview kind of things for a director, and he gets there, and the first thing he said, everybody on the crew is just amazingly overly nice to me, and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought, well, this is very strange, but I like
you
this.
noticed it.
I thought this was really weird, and then everybody kept saying, "Oh, we're so glad to have you here," and I kept thinking, okay, this is strange. So I go ahead and start doing my job, only to find out later on that day that the shoot that they did last week had a very prominent actor on set. They did that whole thing where they made the cameraman, one of the camera guys was in charge of the sound.
Right.
So he got a Zoom recorder, put it on top of of one of the cameras, but ultimately he forgot to press the record button. But they ended up getting the sound on just the camera, so the sound didn't actually get recorded right with using the wireless mics or anything like that. So what had happened was the entire shoot was just completely wasted because of bad sound. So it was those shortcuts that they thought they were saving a
Yeah.
buck, and ultimately cost them the whole
And the
shoot.
most crucial element on the whole piece, because without sound, they can't use it, right?
It was unusable.
Is
So
unusable.
they didn't make that mistake again. So that production company did see that their failure did cost them that shoe, and
Yeah.
they had vowed that's never going to happen again. So
Yeah.
we're going to get somebody in place of that.
Because you and I wonder, why aren't they that smart to begin with?
Yeah, because it
You-
seems crazy to us, but I can't fight
yeah.
for that sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to sort of let people fail. That's how
Right.
life is, kind of. But failure doesn't mean failure. Failure just means that they don't do that again.
They don't do that again.
But
right,
seasoned
right.
directors know that when you stretch out your talent too thin, you got everybody doing one-man band kind of things.
Yeah.
Something fails, and you won't notice it right there and then until later on when it's too
Well,
late.
and for the camera person to do it, which is whom they always select.
It's not their
Yeah,
job.
they don't. They never. I suppose this has happened once or twice, but you never tell the makeup lady, or person. You don't say, "Hey, go do audio on this with you," because you're
Or
going to
even
be
their
all,
hair.
or you're going to be all done by the
Yeah.
time they're on. Why don't you go
Yeah.
ahead, mic them up, and listen and do
Yeah.
all that? It's always the camera guy. It's
and,
always
and
the
what
camera
looks
guy.
like somebody sitting around on set not doing anything to a
novice.
novice
Yeah.
who's paying the money to have this production done. They're seeing people stand around. They're thinking that's wasting money.
Yeah.
But what it is that person is responsible for a very important part of the production, and you don't want them off doing sound while an actor over here struggling with their hair.
Right.
It just makes too much. When you try to do too much, you end
Yeah.
up failing at everything.
Thin it out so much, and that's what happens.
It's in every department too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
you see that in
absolutely.
camera and sound where it's just stretched too thin.
Yeah.
And ultimately fails because of that.
And something's going to fail, and what fails, say in the cameraman's piece, he knows the camera.
Yeah.
He knows how to get that shot, and that's what his expertise is. Sound over here, he thinks he's done it right.
That's correct.
You know what I mean? But
But it's
there's an
not his
element
primary
missing.
concern.
It's not his primary
His
concern.
job is to get the greatest picture he can.
Yeah.
Using what he's got.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sound is an afterthought for a lot of people.
You know what? I actually, and this has cost me job way back when it wasn't just me starting, but it was back when I was newer. You know what I mean? I was sort of working the lower rates. I was working whatever job came up and all that. Somebody called me, and it was for a food chain, franchise, and they wanted me to come in and light it. Well, I get there and come in and light it, you know what I mean? And I was referred to as from the DP. Well, they meant come in and help light it, and do audio, So I'm in here doing this and is struggling, and the camera guy helped me out and stuff like that. I got it and put the cans on, and stuff. I'm looking at the monitor. I'm listening to the sound, and went through it. And they go, "How did it sound?" I go, "Yeah, it sounded okay." Because it sounded okay to me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I wasn't judging it. I mean, I heard
You heard
everything.
traffic in the back. The traffic sounded great in the
Yeah, so,
background.
yeah, just like our lawnmower out here right now. But
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody hears that. But so I get a call the next week from a very irate line producer who hired
the
me
worst
on
feeling.
that, and she goes, "I want you to know you weren't paying very good attention
Oh.
when you had the sound on because there was somebody." And here now we're in a open restaurant too.
Yeah. Working
So
restaurant.
we're in a
Dishes
working restaurant.
clashing.
Somebody apparently got ice at the wrong moment when somebody said something, and they couldn't hear it very well, and. They never. She goes.
can't
We
blame
won't be
anybody
using.
for-
Oh,
yeah.
she says to me, "We won't be using you again." I go, "Okay," you know what I mean?
Great. You say, don't- not for sound.
Well, yeah, I don't
Awesome.
do sound.
Yeah, I don't want to be used
But
for
from that
sound.
moment on, I have refused to do any
Absolutely.
cross jobs because I am not putting myself in that position
Yes.
to do it. It is not my area of expertise. I sell myself as a lighting person, a grip electric,
Yep.
and I am not going to do audio unless I choose to. And if I choose to, then I am going to know exactly what I'm doing when I walk in there because I'll have already apprenticed with someone.
But even the most skilled person, it comes down to multitasking. And true humans cannot do the multitasking people think they can. Where they're driving on their cell phone while driving, people think they're multitasking, but they're actually taking attention away from their driving, going back and forth. back and forth.
Absolutely.
But they think that they're doing good.
Yeah.
But to somebody else that's maybe a highway patrolman that's following them, and they keep seeing them weave.
Every time you look over like this, it's
know,
like this, back
They
and
go
forth,
back and
yeah.
say, I don't know what you're talking about. I was driving just perfectly fine. So
Yeah.
everybody thinks they
They
can do
can
multitask,
multitask,
but
yeah.
the result is no, they can't. And
Yeah.
you need to dedicate yourself to one field exactly that you do. And even if it looks like you're sitting over there doing nothing, you're doing that exact task
Right.
in which you're going to do that right. And then it's easy for somebody to come back later and do a Monday morning quarterback by putting it on the editor.
Right.
When I was young, I helped assistant editor for a movie that I first worked on when I was new. That I said I'll assistant edit, but I did it because I wanted to see all the mistakes we made on set. But
Sure.
there are many, many, many mistakes. We had audio sections we couldn't use. We had fuzzy focus lights. I mean,
yeah, sure.
it's easy
Lights
to go
in the
back
shot or a
and post
stand,
and,
yeah.
and Monday morning quarterback because you weren't
Sure.
there on set. You didn't know that the actor came in 2 hours late and we had to scramble. You don't know all the little things that happen. You can only be prepared for them
Right.
on set and deal with it then. But it's really easy for somebody, to come into an editing bay and criticize all the mistakes you made.
Oh, there's so many good points there. I mean, that is so good. But that is one of my biggest bugaboos. People ask me, they go, when you're looking at something and you're judging it by the lighting, which I don't look at everything and judge the lighting. You know what I mean? I don't do that. If something is working, I'm supposed to buy into it and not think about it, and that's what I do most of the time. However, when you see something and it looks bad, you notice that immediately, and you pick up on that. And one gal asked me one time, she goes, do you sit there and go really critical on people and stuff? And I go, I don't, because here's what I think. When I see something like that, I thought, they probably hired someone who was good, number one. Then they cut him back his lighting order. Then maybe they
Reduce his
did have,
budget.
maybe they did have,
time.
he's a single guy on set. They changed locations on him. They give him and the DP, based on erroneous information from production, make a wrong lighting decision for where they end up in.
Probably didn't give them a call sheet, so they probably ended up in the wrong location.
That could be. That could
No,
be.
all
That's
kinds of
happened
crazy
to
stuff.
us.
Yeah.
That's happened to us.
Yeah.
But I always look at it, you never know the circumstances of somebody's situation on where they had to shoot. That includes the director too.
Yeah.
Just like you say, the actor being 2 hours late, he can be throwing a curveball where he's got the location one day, actor's late. He's got to go in there and now repatch the script to
One thing
make
I've
something
noticed
out
is
of it.
the reality of what you want to film and what you actually get on film are completely two different things. As a crew person, you need to be very flexible in, I've literally had entire sets canceled and quickly got to move over here to catch the sunset.
Yeah.
And it just, it all goes wrong. It's all on plan, it looks great, but it all goes wrong, and you have to, as a crew person, roll with it.
Yeah.
It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
It is whatever goes wrong, You deal with it, you take care of it, you do the best you can,
Right.
you move on to the next thing, and you don't beat yourself up over it too much at all, because
Right.
it really is kind of like a happy magic a bit in a way. It could all come together, it could all completely fail.
It's lightning in a bottle,
It
right?
is,
We're all trying to catch that, and we're doing
But
it.
you have to get used to that, I mean, as a crew person.
Oh, no, it's a legit. Let's talk about that when we come back.
Sure.
We're going to go to a quick little break right now, and we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Burnie. I own Burnie's Grip and Lighting, San Diego Grip and Lighting, and Los Angeles Grip and Lighting. You know, we pride ourselves on not only renting you the best equipment, but also giving you the best crews. And one of our core values here at Burnie's Grip and Lighting is that we give you the highest production value in the world. And remember, people used to say national, local. No, we present world-class production value on every set. We also know budgets are very tight these days, and you've got 10 hours to get what you need in the can. We move ahead, we move fast, and we know what you need. When you rent from Burnie's Grip and Lighting, you have a partner on your production for that day that is making sure you are well taken care of. So anytime you're in Southern California, give us a call at 714-609-3545, and we'll take very good care of you. See you on set. Hey everybody, welcome back. Here with Richard Ragon.
Yep,
All
good to
right,
be back.
buddy. Good to be back. Oh, we were gone a long time, weren't we?
Yeah.
You know, just talking about that too, and where you're an individual and you're learning how to roll with the punches on set, because it's really everything. You know, they hire us, as you know, as problem solvers. You know, we're expected to come up with a solution for their problem
Especially
on
in sound.
set. In sound, often.
Often by people who don't know what the problems are, but we're just going to throw you at it, and hopefully it'll be good.
Yes, yes.
That's kind of the
yes,
attitude in the sound
yes,
department.
Yes.
You know, where we go into a bar and there's like 6 coolers on and people in the background walking around clicking bottles, and you know they're saying, "Is that good for sound?" I'm like, "Well, could be better, but you know, that's just what we're
that
given."
depends on how much post you want to do on it. We heard the people, but now you want to put those background sounds in context to the dialogue, then you know that's a little. That didn't come out perfect on that, and it's never going to. Obviously, that's a post thing, right?
Yeah. In a way, sometimes the background sounds are okay, or you can work around it. It is when you cut the scenes together, there's a jarring of sound sometimes. So, which means that you're filming one way, one direction, and the mic is picking up maybe a cooler that's off in the back of the actor here. When you cut the cameras over to this next way, the mic's pointing a different way. So between cuts, you'll hear this hum and then no hum, and then hum and no hum.
Right.
So the difficulty is smoothing that out, because like editing, there are, you know, when you watch, you want to watch it so it's smooth, and the mind doesn't think about editing. You're just a fly on the wall watching 2 characters talk.
Right.
And sound has a way of taking you out if it's jarred
Distracting
like that.
you
It
from
distracts you and pulls you into to realizing that there's edits there. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a bad thing when you hear traffic in the background or coolers or everything, but the bad thing is when you switch sides and you get a jarring effect where
Yeah.
you hear hum this way and no hum the other way and then hum back again. So I you know, got to hand it to a lot of post sound people. They're able to sort of drop that sound out, especially with the tools they have nowadays. It's amazing. I've seen some stuff that I knew was a problem and I made a note on my clipboard saying, hey, the actor talked off access to the microphone, and I think that's a problem. And the post person said, well, we'll take a look at it, and they're able to kind of like bring up just that dialogue and cut around it.
Isolate that, bring
or
it
they
back.
can isolate just that
Wow.
sound. They target those frequencies, can drop the background frequencies sort of out, so it doesn't produce that jarring effect anymore. It's pretty amazing.
Do you ever work in post audio?
No. that is another misconception. On new filmmakers, I get people sometimes calling me up asking me for sort of a package deal, like can we have you doing sound on set and then sound in editing? And I personally don't do editing post. That is a different job requiring different skill sets with different equipment and different tactics and different skill
Sure,
level.
absolutely.
So while it's all sort of sound, it's a bit like saying that the hair and makeup is the same as the lighting person on sound, because they're both involving the actors.
The actor,
and
but they're actually coming at it from two different sides.
yeah. But because a lot of people don't understand what sound does, it's kind of a mystery. They sort of lump all sound people into that field, even though there's
Sure.
different places that sound is worked on in the beginning, in the middle, and then in the end of production. But
That's it's what we do. It just brings back home this: we are very much individual artisans at our job when we're there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's it. You're in field location sound recording.
yeah, my main thing about sound is that I want to do sound only. I'm not interested in doing or being known as also camera work.
Yeah, right.
Because when you spread yourself too
Right.
thin like that, it's all about networking. It's who you know, and calls come from unusual places. Like you've referred me to different
Sure,
jobs and stuff
yes.
too. So I don't know where that referral comes from sometimes, and often it could be a PA on set that day that I didn't pay any attention to, and he says, "Hey, I know a sound guy.
I just looked on my call sheet and I got
He
a
was
guy
there,
who's like-
Richard. I saw him working. He was good.
Yeah.
So let's give him a
Seems
call.
like he knows
so
what
next
he
thing you
was
know, I'm
doing.
getting a call from somebody that I'm like, "How did you get my number?" And
Yeah.
it seems really strange. Well, so that's another reason why you should treat everybody with
Oh,
respect on set, because that guy that's a
absolutely.
PA could be a director tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But next thing you know, I'm going off to a different job that I didn't account for. But
Right, and that's part of what I love about our industry too, is those chance meetings. This relationship turns you on to this relationship,
Yes.
and that relationship gets
Absolutely.
you in this door.
Absolutely.
I think that it's really just a wonderful way to work and a wonderful way to network too. You know, as all
But
those
you want to be
things go.
known as your brand is
Yes.
the lighting. My brand is sound
Yes,
production.
yes,
And
yes.
if you do other things, it takes you away from that
It
known,
dilutes
that brand.
it dilutes your expertise.
That's correct.
how I
I'm
look
an
at
expert
it.
at
Right.
what I do. If you say I'm all around kind of film person, there are people that can do that. In fact, there's some actors that can do directing and acting at the same time. It's
Which
astonishing
is,
to me.
It is amazing.
But few people can multitask with that kind of rules. And if you're in this business and you're trying to make it, I think that you should pick a single area of expertise and master just
Yes,
that, and be
yes.
known as the sound guy. So
Yes.
when somebody calls you and they say, "Hey, I know a guy who's literally sitting at his computer right now and he wants to be a sound guy," and so you call him up and he says, "I'm available," and sure, next thing you know, you're on the set. So
Yeah.
but-
Well, you know what I think too, that and we spoke a little bit about this on a couple shows ago too, is that there's almost like that multitasking lie. You know what I mean? That you convince yourself you can multitask, you can do it. It only hurts you.
Yes.
It only
especially
hurts
in the
you.
networking, like
Oh,
we were
yeah.
talking about.
Oh, yeah.
especially in the networking,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
You don't want somebody saying, "Oh, I knew a guy who does maybe he does camera. I don't know," and they have to call him up. They want, if you introduce yourself as a camera, I'm a camera person.
Yeah.
Then that's what you want to be known as. That's how you do your networking.
Well, and it's so important too, because if I'm going to call somebody says like, okay, I need an audio guy. You know what I mean? Jimmy Bob just talked to me on the phone, and I know Jimmy Bob. He does artwork, he does camera, he does
Becomes
audio,
confusing to
and
people.
he's a very skilled guy. He's a smart person. As safe as I feel about referring him to a camera job, he's not my first pick. I'm going to go to the guy that's camera all the way, because what I want is that guy to blow the client away when he talks to him, and he knows everything, not just a guy that says, "Oh, I could do audio too," or something like that. It dilutes you, and it doesn't do the production, in my opinion, any good. Now, I will say this. We live in a bit of a luxury world down here, being right next to the production colossus of the
Hollywood.
world. Yeah, you know, if you're somebody in a smaller market, you know what I mean, you may be forced to do
Yes.
multiple jobs, and that's
Especially
something you
school
can take
projects and things
as
like
an advantage in learning to a couple different departments well. You know what I mean? But most of the time, you're going to, in my opinion, have to pick an area of expertise and shine there. That is it.
When I was a kid, and I was watching, I think it was Aliens at that time, and
Yeah.
I was just so blown away by James Cameron's Aliens.
Yeah.
That the credits are rolling, and I'm looking at all these credits go up, and I'm thinking to myself, all these people worked on this movie. It's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And then it started to dawn on me that each one of those people that you see on the credits are what they do. This set painter
Yeah.
is all he does.
He
He
just
just sits
paints
around and
the
waits for that
set.
phone to ring, then he shows up and does that job only.
Yep.
And he does it with such precision that he becomes the only guy that you call when you need this done.
That's absolutely
That's
right.
what you, as a crew person,
Yeah.
this is what you want to achieve.
Right.
You know, that automatically everybody, you know, that's in the film production would say, we need an egg jumping out of a basket, and you'd say, I know somebody who does that.
Yeah.
You become the expert at doing that.
At doing that, yeah.
Yeah.
And two, that lead painter, who was originally hired by production, who's now going to build his crew. He looks back down. He looks at his list of painters, of his call list, and he looks like, oh yeah, you know, Shirley knows what to do in almost every situation she's coming up as creative.
Like you
She's the
said,
number one call.
Problem solver, though, too.
Problem
because
solver.
it's about a bunch of problems that we've got to get solved.
Yeah.
Starting from the big ones, like what location are we going to use,
Right.
all the way down to like what color are we going to paint this bicycle.
Right.
You know, I mean, just everything is a problem in which they have to delegate. You can't solve every single problem on the set, but you have to portray your vision as a director.
Yeah.
That brings it on to the other people who are the skilled craftsmen that do the actual work, and they know. I mean, there's stuff that we're not even that we see on screen
Yeah.
that we don't even think of, such as clothes and type of clothing and things like that. It didn't even occur to me that there may be entire wardrobes that are completely made from scratch just to convey a certain look of the way the film is, or maybe the color changes with that person's wardrobe as the film goes on. It's the same thing he's wearing, but you'll notice the colors are bleaching out as toward the end of it. It
Right.
conveys an emotional response.
Yes.
It takes a skilled person to do that little tiny mind trick
Yeah.
on camera
Yeah.
to do that. So
I am so glad that you mentioned that, because that is one of the core premises that we have at Burnie's Applebox here. Is that part of this show is to enlighten people on why you're seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
You know, Richard, this is something that for me is like, I realize more people know about the Gutenberg press, right, and the Gutenberg Bible, than know about how the millions of hours of production get put in front of their face and why they're seeing what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Forget the theatrical release.
Yeah.
Just look at a commercial. That commercial is designed specifically for you to take an action.
and every word is analyzed.
Every word is
Every
analyzed,
look,
and
every
and-
pixel.
and that is not about intellect. Every bit of what comes over in our medium is about emotional response.
Yes.
So when you see that shirt, it means something. When you hear that line, it means something. They are trying to, and this is not a bad word, but manipulate your emotions to get you closest to the action they want to take.
Yes,
And
whether
I
it's
am not-
sales
I am-
or
or a
or comic
cause.
book.
It's anything. It's anything. So you saying that and telling that and enlightening people right now, that is one of our core features here, and that's one thing I want people to understand. It's funny you mentioned that wardrobe thing, because just prior this morning I had about an hour and I was sitting around and I was looking on Facebook. Really funny thing that I said, and I only bring this up because you mentioned it, on the movie Forrest Gump. In the scenes where he had a transition in his personality or his transition in his life scope, the director, and I never saw this, thought about it or anything, put him in a plaid shirt. So when he was in a child with the little girlfriend that he had, and she was in a traumatic situation. When he was seeing what was happening, he was in a plaid shirt. Another time when he was in another transit, it was always a different plaid shirt.
Yeah.
But they did that specifically to bring you into that emotional arena. You probably didn't realize that you were reacting 3 scenes later, seeing that plaid shirt. That created just a spark of tension there where you knew something was going to happen.
And it takes experts to figure that out, and, and that because they do that.
Yes.
This is what they do. Every single person on the set is that in the back of their mind. I'm here to manipulate emotionally by delivering the best sound possible, or by delivering the best colors of the film. And every single person is an expert at doing that. And what you see on the screen is a result of an amazing amount of experts that just do that.
Right. And when you see a Hollywood feature, they have the budget to get what they need of the egg jumping out of the basket and all that stuff.
Some silly things, some dog jumping,
all of that.
Special effects, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
It is very amazing. It's very amazing. And it always reminds me when we start going down this path, how little I know.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about the process, but I come back to this. I'm a backhoe operator, right? I'm only there at one part of the house being built.
That's correct.
And you don't call me when you're going to roof it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't get part of the money when you sell it either.
That's correct.
I've already been paid.
That's a whole other issue that
a
on
whole
low budget
other
films,
thing, a whole
where they
other
say
thing.
you're getting some deal where you get a deal memo, or a demo of the picture, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't need a deal memo. I don't need a demo of I don't need a screener.
No, I'm
but
not
I
a
do need to
producer.
put my kids through college, and I do need to make a living.
I do need cash that day.
Exposure dollars.
Yeah,
is what they call it.
Exactly. You know what, Richard, too, and this is, I don't think you've probably ever gone into any other department in a serious way, nor have I. But, in speaking to that, that's why they hire the expert. That's why they're there on set all of the time, and that's why your expertise gets you in that door, gets you on set that day. It's the example of like somebody who's been on set as long as you have or I have. If we try to do a lateral to a different department, say you go from sound to lighting, right? You're not going to do that lateral from where you're at here.
No.
You're going to go all the way back down,
start building,
and build up again. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you're not going to be able to marry the two. So that's one thing that, of course, the levels like DP or director, they are sort of built in to come from somewhere else. Yet they have to go back down to the bottom in order to build themselves up in that.
I think a lot of great directors have done that, though. If you look at, like, especially Cameron, right? That guy operated camera. I think there was even a point where he did sound a little bit. I know David Lynch did sound.
Yeah? Okay. I did not know
They all
that.
started at the bottom somewhere and then worked their way up to different departments. But it was for their master plan. Their master plan was they knew they weren't going to be able to master the sound and be known as that guy, but they grabbed that recorder and they started working in that field for X amount of time till they sort of semi-learned that, know what to do on that.
They understood the process.
Yeah, so then when
the need.
they can be a better director that way because they know that the sound person or the sound department takes X amount of time to be able to wire up everybody. So they'll know what it takes to get different shots and how important sound is, especially David Lynch, in each shot and what we're hearing, what the audience is hearing. So I think they do it from a learning point of view.
Yeah.
But I don't think by any means they're calling themselves masters at that. But they're just like starting from the bottom, and building themselves up.
And this is one of the things that I tell guys all the time too. And it's even one reason why I was an extra in Hollywood when I first got started was to see how the big game was played. And
what a learning experience.
Having that opportunity. To just be able to go up there and see the big shows.
I find that being on set, just doing sound while I'm waiting and watching everybody else working, is one of the greatest learning opportunities ever. Just watching a set be built or something being created right in front of you, and you're like, I look on the camera and I think to myself, this looks great, on the camera, and I've just watched this amazing thing and
go from an empty stage to constructing something that once again conveys emotion, it conveys a feeling, it conveys a response. That you
it's
want.
The greatest learning. I mean, I didn't go to film school.
Yeah.
I took a little bit film school in junior college, but
Yeah.
I didn't really do the whole New York film school thing, or
Right.
I took a different kind of route.
Thank
'cause I was
goodness. I would say in our cases, it was thank goodness because
it may hinder, may help.
Yeah.
It's still out on the jury on that one. But the thing is, I got my first rate education just by being on set
Yeah.
and watching other people work. And to this day, after 12 years of still being on set, I'm still learning things.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
Bingo, bingo, right back at you. You know what? We're going to take another quick break right here, and we will be right back. Thanks a lot.
Burnie's workshop is fantastic. Burnie's workshop is awesome. Burnie's workshop is insightful.
Burnie, in one word, passionate maybe. You can tell he really cares a lot.
Burnie is a badass.
He's a great teacher. He has great stories, and I would recommend this to anyone. Not only someone like me who's starting day one, but I feel that in any profession, as you sharpen your sword, it always gets sharper.
I think the best thing about this is the access to understanding how to run your business, how to actually be in this filmmaking industry and make money at it. Coming to this workshop, I think, is what actually gets you the tools to understand how to do that, how to get out there and sell yourself.
I thought that was really cool. I thought, he knows all the tricks in the book, and he knows how to show that to us and actually demonstrate it so we actually know what he's talking about.
I really like the hands-on experience. That's something that you don't find a lot. That's something you have to go on set a lot to just appreciate.
I know this is lighting seminar, but it's not only talk about lightings. He also share his business experience, personal experience, and guide us to what we should do, what kind of personality we should have in this business.
His stories, I think that kind of say everything in a few example stories that he gives out from time to time.
I would recommend this workshop to anybody who's just brand new to the industry, people who just don't know the swing of it. A lot of the stuff they don't teach you in film school.
I deal with a lot of freelancers every day, a lot of peers that I went to school with, a lot of professionals in the field, and they all need to take this class because it puts you on the next level, on the next playing field.
Burnie's a great guy. Burnie's really authentic. Like everything he learns, everything he teaches, the way he handles himself, the way he deals with other people, he's a one-of-a-kind guy. Someone I've never come across before in the industry, and someone I hope to emulate and hope that there are more people like him out there that can help.
Hey, everybody, we're back with Richard Ragon.
How you doing?
All right, very good, my man. Hey, so, now this is something, too, that I go through, and I want to talk to you about. I know I have a process from the very beginning phone call to calling crew to getting on set to actually executing the lighting, and then in that process is do it. And I am really relying on everything that first the client tells me, and then getting to the physical location, interacting with the DP and everybody else about how I'm going to pull the job off. And there's always little things that you didn't get, and there's some things that maybe you put too much importance to. Take me through a sound job from the first phone call from a client.
Okay, so the first phone calls, your sort of clue, you're starting to count, for lack of a better word, the red flags.
Okay, sure.
Everybody
that's a pretty good word, actually.
But
yeah.
You start counting the red flags or the positive, the white flags, and then you start going through and figuring out how big is this set, how many people are we accommodating, what's involved in it. So for sound, we usually get a call, unfortunately, a little bit later because locations are decided first, lighting, DPs, it's all sort of put out there
directors,
first.
Directors
and then
on, everybody.
Somebody along the line says, oh, you know what, we have to get a sound guy on set. So I'll get the call from the producer or the assistant sometimes asking about my services. So
and let me get a gauge from you. What sort of timeline gauge? I know you get called the day before, sometimes a week before, but what is sort of the average length that somebody has given you a heads up?
Now, most people would say about 2 weeks, but I think it should be much farther out than that. As crazy as this may sound guys are pretty big in demand a lot. The good ones are busy a lot. So months ahead would be better. Because what you have to do as a producer is you have to call them up and find out if they're available. And if they can't make one of those days, let's say the shoot is 3 days long and they can't make one of them, sometimes they're just off the shoot. You got to go to the next person. This happens in our business. I don't take it personally if I can't work it because I'm already got.
Well, I think I called you for a couple of weeks ago. You couldn't do one, you couldn't do the other, right?
So basically, you have to check for and make sure there's availability. So months ahead would be optimal. I've been called as much as 2 weeks, which is okay. The day before the shoot is a lot harder to find somebody to come out.
You're hurting.
A lot harder.
Yeah.
So don't wait to the last minute at all.
Yeah.
If you're-
So you would say an optimum time is at least 2 weeks prior to
Yeah,
the
at
shoot,
least.
and then that gives you time to flex your schedule and then also know
if it's
what
a
you're gonna need.
feature,
Yeah.
and it requires special handling items, maybe props that are going to be used in the movie that are actually serving as mics, like a courtroom where they
Right.
put these old 1970s mics on the desk,
Yeah.
and it's a working prop. Then I would need extra time to find those working props.
Right.
So that, a couple months in advance would be much better.
And that wouldn't be, say, more of a normal job in the way I think of one, which is like doing an interview or something. That's a much bigger commitment when
Yes.
you're on a feature.
Yes,
That's
so-
a whole, because now you're actually not a sound person, you're a department head.
That's correct. Yeah,
And then
become the department.
you're functioning in almost a different role
Yeah.
at,
So
at that point.
I have to then figure out by the questions that are asked on the phone call how big that production is and what the requirements
And
are.
what do you ask to find that out?
I have a crazy set of rules that I ask right off the bat. First I asked, how many actors do you have in any given scene, and how many mics do we need to try to figure out how many wireless I need on set? If they say we have up to 8 actors talking in one scene, then I know I need at least 8 wireless mics for just that one scene. Because when they get to that scene, you have to have more mics than they need. Because you need one just in case one fails.
One goes out.
But,
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
So-
you got to take into consideration the failure factor.
If they say 2, then the average sound mixer normally has 4 in his kit. And
Yeah.
So it's not a big job. But occasionally, if it's a low budget, I found that like low budget stuff that's sort of projects that somebody's pulling for a lot of favors. Usually
Right.
they have their friends all with one-line dialogues in some of these things. So they'll have like 12 actors and around a table all talking, and I'm like, wow, I don't think they realize the technical problems and the challenge of having 12 people mic'd, the time it takes to do that and everything so that's kind of an issue you have to work with.
What sort of, and now that brings up a good point. When you're working with other department heads, say like wardrobe or that, what is the process there? How are you dealing with that?
Well, obviously, hair and makeup the actors on set, the actors would be in hair and makeup first before they hit the set. So I have to sort of sneak my way into without startling anybody as to why I'm there,
Right.
Introduce myself as the sound person, and I am the next guy that they're going to see, that I'm going to help them with their transition onto the set.
Right.
So I approach that with, by kind of looking at outfits, asking questions like, what outfit are you going to be wearing, and things like that. It helps them out, understand that they're working with a professional person that is caring about how they sound. So that's the most important thing, is how they sound. I want my mic to not have any interference with chains or necklaces that may be hanging down.
Sure.
And then I'll work with the wardrobe department to figure out how we, tell them where I want to put the mic on their outfit, and then we could try to work around with a chain or
Whatever
an outboard
they
to get rid
have
of it.
for wardrobe.
And most of the
Yeah.
time, they're willing to help me out with this, because
Sure.
everybody's after the same goal.
Yeah.
Of making sure.
We want to make it look good. We want to make it sound good. So,
But
so that's
I try to get as much time as I can to wire an actor up. That involves placing a wireless mic transmitter, usually in the small of their back or
Right.
in their pants pocket or even on their ankles sometimes. And
Okay.
it has to wire. We'll have to hide the wire strategically on their outfit so we don't see the wire. But
Yes. And we see the wire when you say that's even coming through the clothing, right?
Yes.
Some sheer
we have a lot of sheer outfits,
yeah.
low cut, tight outfits these days,
Yeah.
very thin cotton on men, crew cuts and stuff. We
Yeah.
have to work around. So the collars, if they're bigger, we can hide a mic in there by taping, a wire in the collars. There's a lot of different processes that we can use to hide a microphone on actors. And usually have pretty good results, depending on what mounts I use, what stickies, what I put it on. But if it's an interview type thing, we use wireless mics always. On features and things like that, wireless mics become sort of the backup, but they've got to be on the actor.
Yeah.
The boom is the primary tool for
in a feature. That's
yes.
yeah.
It always is. It is the most expensive, best sounding microphone on set. the wireless mics become a backup just in case we can't get those shots. So if we have a wide shot where the actor walks across the street and they're talking, we can't get in there with a boom, then the wireless mic becomes the primary device in order to get that. And hopefully we'll get enough takes that they'll have enough tracks of those single mics.
To be able to mesh them together
Yes.
and get the most premier
That seamless
audio.
edit,
Yeah.
again, to fool the mind into thinking they're not watching something that's manipulated.
Yes, yes. That's very good, very good. Now tell me about, because here's this something that's always struck me as unique. Outside of the director, the audio person is usually the only other crew or below the line who is dealing directly with the talent.
Yes.
You know, and you're generally dealing with the talent in some sort of capacity where maybe it's about removing clothing, or you have to
Possibly.
attach to clothing. Tell me about that dance, and I'm just thinking, you as a man, you've got a female
Especially
actress.
in this day and age of
In
Hollywood.
this day and age, where we're at right now, you want to maintain a professionalism
Yes.
with you
So
at all times.
the first
you
thing
know.
that you always have to do as a guy working on the set in this capacity is this is what we have to do, is what you have to tell the actress or actor. And we have to inform them, I've got to get in your space.
Yeah.
And I usually ask, I have to do this, and are you okay with that?
Yeah.
And most people just kind of do this whole thing where they're being frisked at an airport.
Well, yeah, and God bless
and they're all
of
right with that.
most of the talent that we get to work with, I feel, are so professional.
Yes.
They've been mic'd up so many times that they're
Yes.
they're
They know
really
they know the
they're
routine.
almost more interested in making you feel comfortable
Yes.
about it. You know.
I do get a lot of comments, of course. You'll get a lot of from both men and women, like, "Oh, this is the greatest part of the job," or I mean, in all respects, it's just something you have to get into somebody's personal space. And
Yes.
like you said, most actors, they're okay with that because they're used to being poked and prodded and dabbed and combed and stuff. It's all part of the routine.
Right.
So some guy getting in there and adjusting their clothes
Right.
are just normal part of
Because
that.
you may have to clip onto a bra or something
Yes,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and you're going to maybe. I'm just thinking. I've seen these things which I think are a cellman's nightmare. The dress that is one piece and it zips up in the
Those
back,
are tough.
and
yeah.
then you
Not because of the mic. That's actually tough because the transmitter represents a certain amount of weight and a certain amount of size. It's like a little
Yes.
mini flask bottle.
Okay.
And I use a different tools such as I'll use a belt that we can put
Okay.
underneath.
and you can
or-
put that around the person's waist.
Yes, and we can
Okay.
hide the transmitter in the small of their back, or we can put the transmitter on their bra, or sometimes we can run it down pants. Have you ever seen those really tight suits that men wear now?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a throwback
Yeah, yeah.
to the 50s
No,
and
totally,
stuff.
totally.
Very difficult to hide, especially
Yeah.
if they've got a shirt
The
tucked
real-
in,
yeah.
very thin.
Yeah.
Every little
All very
wire
streamlined,
thing
yeah.
shows, even the outfit that's underneath of them, you can see kind of an outline of,
Yeah.
of a wife beater shirt, kind of like
Yeah.
very difficult to
Yeah.
kind of work it around the seams and put it in there. We use tape to try to put it in there, but it is invasive
Yeah.
to the actors. But most of the time, occasionally I'll get somebody that just, I don't want you touching me, I don't want anybody touching me. And it's just the type of person we have to work around. We have to assure them that, I'm just here, we're here to make you look as good as possible and sound as good as possible.
Yes.
And when people hear that, they want to sound as good as possible.
Yeah.
They don't want to sound like they're talking in some bathroom or anything like that. So you have to just assure them that this is for them. We're all here for them.
For their
Everybody in this room is working for you to make you look as good on camera as
Yes.
possible. And when
Yes.
you do that, you present that presence to them. They become suddenly. It's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Okay.
And
You can help
it's a
me.
really
Yeah.
great thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
No,
on,
that's-
also on the phone call that you get
Yes.
originally, the other questions that you might ask, I always ask, how many IFBs do you need?
Okay.
IFBs.
And IFB, describe that for us.
IFB is, I forgot what the actual need for that, the word for that is, but it is the way for the director and the script supervisor and anybody else in the production in the Video Village to listen to the audio, because Video
Yes.
Village could be off of the production.
Sure.
And you want them to hear the audio correctly like you do. So
they're getting a direct feed of your audio
Yes.
in their headphones so they can hear it and hear exactly what you're hearing.
The bigger the production, the more IFBs that they need, the more headphones, the more sets, the more ears and eyes are on set watching the production. That gives me a feel of how big the production's going to be.
Yes.
So if they say, no, we don't need any, usually it's like, oh,
Small.
so small production, maybe a one-on-one interview, not a big deal. If they say we need 10, commercials do this.
You got
so
yeah.
we start have to think about that kind of
So,
size.
and at this point, you at some point in that conversation too, you're talking about what kind of help you need, because now if it's 10 IFBs, you know you need an A2, an A1, and an A2
Yes.
maybe.
Often we always, on scripted features such as shorts, movies, even commercials, will have a boom op to help us out.
Yeah.
And the boom op, possibly two. Usually, what I do is I usually figure out how many cameras. If it's a single camera shoot, then one boom can do that job. Usually the boom stays with the camera, so wherever the camera's pointing, that's where the boom is. If there's two cameras, I'll start suggesting possibly two booms.
Okay.
Because if you're, like, let's say we're filming a conversation between me and you,
Yeah.
and the camera's this way, I want to boom on you, and the other camera's this way, I want to boom on me.
yeah.
So sometimes it's too difficult to move the boom back and forth.
And
to
the guy's
kind
got
of
to be a
predict.
mind reader.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
if it's not scripted, or they're improvising
Right.
mumblecore, it's very difficult to not know, because it's everything on set is all a coordination.
Yes.
The actors say a line here, they may walk 2 feet, say another line.
Right.
It's done like that over and over.
And you want to
every
allow
take.
that actor to have that sort of immediacy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
By having a boom specifically on that person.
Yes.
It allows them to slightly improvise and slightly change, but still yet do the coordinated response that they need to do while catching it on the camera we need to catch it on. So
Yeah.
if there's 2 cameras or even 3 cameras, I may suggest a second boom, and sometimes on bigger sets, if it's a lot of people, then maybe even a 3rd boom, and I've even seen 4th booms now
Yeah.
sometimes. So it's not exactly popular if you were to tell the producer, hey, we need 3 or 4 more booms, but if you try to explain why, if it's a big production with lots of different cameras that
Yeah.
we're just going to go through
No.
and go through one shoot, then we have to get those booms into place where
Right.
they need to be to catch that sound.
And somebody who's experienced and doing probably that size of production knows that, but they may give you pushback because of
Yes,
budget.
Too many people.
Yeah.
And they may say, well, why can't you just do it like I've seen these reality guys do it, run around like that? And the reason why is because if you are on the set for 10 hours and you're holding a 60-pound bag,
Yeah.
this is going to blow you
You-
out.
you ain't gonna do that.
After a couple of days,
I-
you may be able to do it as a kid, but after a couple of days, you're just not going to show up then on the 4th
No,
day, because
yeah.
you're just going to be, your back's going to be blown out. That's just not how we do scripted stuff.
Yeah.
The boom in the bag and the sound mixer doing the 2 jobs at once is
Right.
for reality shows
Yeah.
where you do run and gun kind of stuff.
And
like
you're
where
working
running out
multiple days, you
and,
know,
and
doing
you
all
basically get out of the car, film whatever, and get back in the car again.
Exactly.
Not
Yeah.
for scripted stuff where you're sitting on set for 10 hours a
Yeah.
day. It would just blow you out right off the bat. And it's a shame that most producers look at the sound guy as a department in which 3 people can do by 1 guy. And it's a real shame, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'm at an age in which I'm saying that my back and my health is
Oh,
just not worth
dude,
this.
we're
this
both
film.
there. We're both there. It's things that. Listen, can you believe it? It's been an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us, where can we get a hold of Richard Ragon?
You can find me on my webpage at goodforsound.com. So that's good, the number 4 sound, no apostrophes, no commas, just goodforsound.com. And my phone number's on there, my email address is on there. You can take a look at my resume and my credits and everything else about me on there. So goodforsound.com.
And what region? You work LA, Orange County, San Diego?
I will travel anywhere, but my main region is Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much,
much.
Richard.
Thank you.
It was so nice of you to
Yeah,
come down
thank you
today.
for inviting
and-
me.
No, very enlightening, very enlightening. As a lighting guy, I honestly said to myself, I go, boy, audio, I don't know much about it. I go, I wonder if I know the right question, but you just took it away. You ran with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why having an expert's so important, right?
Thanks.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
and we'll see you next week on Burnie's Applebox.
Cut. That's a wrap.